Hello, this is Dr. Tracy, and welcome to my YouTube channel. On my last episode, I wanted to share with you what brought me to this point of this platform that I would want to share with you something so deeply personal and hurtful in my journey with God. And so I gave you the courtroom experience. Today, day 2, I give you the opportunity to look inside of where I was on day 2 after the courtroom experience. When my husband and I left the courtroom that day, I remember crying all the way home. My mother was in the back seat. She had traveled from her hometown to be with us, and she was quiet. My husband was quiet, and I sat in the passenger seat and I cried. I cried and I cried because I was just so angry with God. My son had been in a jail cell for a year awaiting trial. And once that trial concluded and he got the 2 life sentences that he received, I looked upon that year journey and I said, God, where are you? Where were you? I trusted you. I believed you. If nothing, my mother has always been a praying woman, and I knew that she was praying for her eldest grandchild. And you not only disappointed me, God, you let my mother down. And so hence that began my angry season with God. How could a God of love abandon me? How could a God of love reject me? Reject me to the point in my faith. And I did have little faith at that time, but I believed God. I trusted him. I leaned on him to deliver my son from a situation that resulted in what he received. 2 life sentences. How does one serve 2 life sentences? Consecutively, I might add, the judge added, consecutively. So in my angry season, once we got home, my husband was so disappointed that he actually got in the car and he left. It left me and my mother there to try to unpack what had just happened to us. What had just happened to what I thought was a life of promise, what I thought was a life of aspirations, and ultimately a life that would honor my son's athleticism, had now been destroyed. Been destroyed by the words of one individual, the judge. So my mother was sitting on the sofa and I was sitting on the floor. And I don't know what came over me, but I just began to roll like a log on the floor. And I was rolling and screaming and crying. The tears would not stop. As a matter of fact, I don't think at that time I wanted them to stop. God let me down. God took my oldest and just threw him to the wolves. And now here I was thinking, here's my little naive, middle class, 19-year-old going to be sent to a prison full of monsters. I was afraid to death for his life. I just was devastated in so many different thoughts that I felt my chest tightening. I thought I was having a heart attack. In all honesty, I think I wanted to have a heart attack. I wanted to die. I even thought about killing myself, but I was afraid to do so. So I finally got to this point where I heard my mother saying, please stop crying. Please stop crying. And so I stopped. And I sat up and I started listening to her minister to me. The daughter in me listened because that was my mother. But the mother in me kept saying silently, "You have no idea how I feel." And oftentimes, people who try to minister to mothers like me, they really don't know how you feel unless they've experienced that for themselves. And so I just remember another line of anger coming up in the pit of my throat. God, I am so angry with you. In the days ahead, in my angry season, because remember, this is transparency at its finest, I thought each and every day, how could a God of love allow me to have such heartbreak? So one day I got up, went into the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, and I did not recognize myself. I had dark circles under my eyes where I was not sleeping. And when I did sleep, it was fitful sleeping. I looked at this wounded woman in the mirror, and I started crying. The tears were rolling down my cheeks, and I finally asked God, why me? Why me? I was the best mother that I knew that I could be. And still, this is what I get from you? This is what I get for going to church? This is what I get for singing in the choir? This is what I get for teaching Sunday school and vacation Bible school? Really? Really, God? And when I started going down my list, there were some other things that I said to God, but those are the most important things that I want you to conclude or draw a conclusion from. When I finally was able to pause for a moment, God spoke to me just as clearly as I'm speaking to you. He said, "Why not you?" To be quite honest with you, it took me aback because up until that point, I never really could recall a time when I heard God's voice. But I heard God's voice that day, that morning in the mirror. And I have positioned myself from that day forward to be quiet long enough to hear from God. And God, then, as he has continued to do until now, speak loudly and clearly to me where I understand it's not about me at the end of the day. It's about you. It's about him breaking my heart wide open and me allowing him to begin to put the pieces back together again such that I could help someone else. That's what being a believer in God is all about. Giving of oneself over to a greater good. It is my purpose in life to be always in a position where I can help someone else. Because when I do that, the Word of God says when you give the best of your service, that is when he blesses you with his best. So I hope today that my angry with God season has positioned itself in a way in your spirit that you will allow it to come in. The Word of God also says that one plants, another waters, but it is God that provides the increase. I hope you've been increased today. God bless you, and I'll see you when I see you.